Welcome everyone to our August meeting, community meeting for Recon. We're very excited to have everyone with us today. And now I'll pass to my colleague Yankei to introduce our first speaker.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So for our first speaker today, we have Yehudi. She is the Executive Director of Open Life Science, a nonprofit mentoring and training program dedicated to building a global network of open research ambassadors. She and her co-founder started this towards the end of 2019. And before that, she initially trained in computing and IT education, and then went on to gain a doctorate in engineering from the University of Manchester, where she was studying human factors in research software and open communities. Prior to this, she was the Open Science Technology Lead at Wellcome Trust, and even before that, she was working as an open source research software engineer and community manager at Intermine, based at the Department of Genetics at the University of Cambridge. So she has a lot of experience beyond this, as being a Software Sustainability Institute Fellow, NASA TOPS grantee, Research Software Alliance steering committee member. So she has seen a lot of different ways of developing open science communities. So we're just going to hand you over to her today to talk about both the OpenSeeds program that that they've been developing over the last 6 years or now, as well as a new program that they started called Nebula with NASA. So I'll hand over to you now, Yo, to tell us a bit more about all of this.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Yeah, okay. Now, are you seeing the screen that I hope you're seeing?
Yep.
You
Good.
are, and it's still doing the advancing when I want to do the advancing? Yeah, all right. Okay, fantastic. So hello, my friends. I am going to talk to you about training, but I'm going to take a couple of little excursions on the way while we're getting there. Because I think we don't always manage to talk about the human factors when it comes to building communities nearly as much as we should, especially in science and in research. So who am I? Actually, Anke, you gave a really great overview, so I won't go too much into this, although I will realign the timeline a little bit. I did my doctorate whilst I was working at Cambridge and whilst I was at Wellcome and whilst I was working on this. I don't particularly recommend doing a full-time PhD and a full-time job at the same time. It is very tiring. The good news is that bit's over now, and it's such a relief. So, like I mentioned, or like you mentioned, Yankei, I have focused a lot on open source, open science, and sustainability of communities. And if you want a spoiler for my thesis, I was really hoping that people who wrote computational code, that we'd learn more about the sustainability of their projects by getting a GitHub URL, putting it into the computer, and asking it to do some computations and spit out good, not good, must do better, will be very sustainable. Unsurprisingly, it's more complicated than that. And there is no single indicator that says this is going to be a healthy community, and that one's not going to be. However, what I do want to talk about is things that might help make communities healthy when you are working on your open research work. And to set the scene, I'm going to talk about things that I'm sure you've been thinking about already today, probably even this morning. S's, fish and chips, and the entirety of human knowledge. Now, before you kick me off and say, no, this was not what you're supposed to be talking about, don't worry, I'm going to move forwards. And I need a bit of help from everyone. In the chat, please, think of any acid, a good acid. Tell me what acid that is, and just pop that into the chat. And I need several answers, or I will not be able to proceed. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Hold on, it says chat disabled for me. Can you chat? No, no one can chat. Can you unmute? I need 2 or 3 good acids.
Can certainly unmute lemon juice.
Lemon juice? Lemon juice is a great acid. I need more acids. Bring me your acids.
Folic
I feel
acid.
like, which one?
Folic acid.
I don't know what that one is. Can you tell me?
Yeah, chat is a name now, so I just wrote.
Oh, folic acid, right. I misheard. Fantastic. Bring in some more.
Vinegar.
Vinegar. Vinegar. What about anything you don't eat? Battery acid. I feel like some of you must be wet lab scientists. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid. Beautiful. This is what I was looking for, right? They're all fantastic acids. Now, okay, thank you. You have helped me with my oddly arbitrary request that you will soon understand the meaning of course. So, sulfuric, beautiful. Okay, and now salicylic acid. That's the one that you get, like, you've got to be careful of in some foods, isn't it? All right. Fish and chips, next item on the agenda. Now, the first few acids we mentioned, when you put them on fish and chips, which, by the way, I'm told is a very popular meal in Britain. I do not eat fish. I'm vegan, and I don't particularly like chips, but I'm told that putting vinegar or lemon juice is a very nice way to bring the flavors out just right of your fish and chips. But if we look at some of the other acids that we were talking about, I don't know if you really want to be sprinkling hydrochloric or sulfuric acid onto your fish and chips and then eating it. Battery acid, another example. Nope, do not put that on my fish and chips. Thank you very much. And now, moral of the story being, just because something is best or very good at what it does, very appropriate, doesn't mean it always works well within the system, because it depends what the system is and what the needs of that system are. So with that message in mind, we move on to the third thing, the entirety of human knowledge. So as we're growing up, we gain general knowledge. Primary and secondary school try and give us a well-rounded education. It forgets the important things like how to plan your finances, of course, but it does do a lot of nice and well-rounded things. Come on, slide. There we go. And if you begin to try and expand your knowledge in certain ways, let's say through a bachelor's, then your knowledge becomes specialized. It expands just a little bit in a particular domain, but you now have a lot more depth in that particular domain. And then there we go. If you continue to a research degree, you become even more specialized and your knowledge becomes even that much more in depth. You could even say that you are now the best at that thing, because chances are when you did if you did a research degree, that you were creating human knowledge and you were the first person to know one of the things that you found in your research. But it's so, so very specific. And what that means is all the other areas around the circle, other people specialized in, and you maybe did, but maybe you didn't. And like if you think about a TV scientist, right? Maybe you've seen Battlestar Galactica, but it could be any TV scientist. If I'm thinking of Gaius Baltar, he was a computer scientist, and all of a sudden he was sequencing people's genes, and I think he was doing some nuclear stuff as well. I mean, if we gave it more time, he'd probably throw in geology or marine biology. Those people don't tend to be real. What we tend to see is people specializing in one or two or three different fields. And often what we don't end up doing, whilst we become fully qualified researchers, we don't necessarily end up with the community skills that we want. So you might end up leading a lab or PIing a project without necessarily actually having any in-depth training in the interpersonal things that make these teams or communities, if you're running an open project, maybe, the things that make them work, that make those work well. Certainly that was my experience. When I was a research software engineer, I ended up doing community management because someone spotted that I use Twitter, therefore I must be sociable, right? And then you end up stumbling along on your own and figuring this stuff out. And I'm actually going to say that rather than taking someone whose skills are the very best in whatever research domain they've done and then putting several of them together and expecting them to work, I'm going to say just because they're the best in their skill doesn't mean that they're the best in a system. And that actually, if we apply systems thinking to skills and individuals and we put them together, we need to think about the interpersonal skills that allow teamwork and allow people to work together in groups, in communities, and not in drama, soap, or reality TV shows. Where, yeah, drama is actually the most important thing rather than not what you want on Monday morning. And so, how do we learn these things? My experience was that whilst working in academic roles, so it's not something I was really taught, but something I had to pick up on my own. But they are something that's teachable. CSCCE, that's Centre for Scientific Something and Community Engagement. Please don't test me on this. They did a nice skills wheel for community managers, and the sort of purpley bluey thing over on the top right looks at the interpersonal skills that community managers will can benefit from. And I'm going to focus on a few of them, looking at things that are very important in effective and inclusive teamwork, specifically facilitation, as like facilitating meetings and collaborations, for example, mentoring, helping people learn. A really important skill, whether you are in an open community, whether you are a PhD supervisor, whether you're the unofficial postdoc who's the actual PhD supervisor, or anything else like that. And cultural awareness, which is so meaningful when you are working in international or non-international but still multicultural groups. And these are all things that training can make more effective and better. And then I'll talk a bit about my organisation. Hi, OLS. We want to capacity build around the world, diversifying leadership in a variety of ways. So that doesn't mean we want to see just a few other white women doing things, but actually we want to see people with different disabilities and abilities. We want to see people with different religions, different visual aspects, different colours and sexual orientations, and all of the things I haven't mentioned. But we want to make research more accessible, inclusive and equitable than it currently is, because unfortunately it currently is not very accessible, inclusive and equitable. And so we do run a couple of trainings towards this. Like Jan K mentioned earlier, I saw also, as well as Jan K and Sibele, I saw Stefan, who's participated in our programs as well, which was really nice. We run OpenSeeds, which is a 16-week training that people are asked to dedicate about 2 hours to the trainings, and they spend a week roughly, I should say. 1 week they meet with a mentor, and every other week we do training around interpersonal and open science related things that might be useful. And then the Nebula program, which is much shorter, it's a bit more entry level. It gives you a shiny NASA certificate. And it's more like 4 hours a week, but only 6 weeks. And rather than having individual mentoring, you have group coaching to actually help you expand and explore some of the skills that you may be learning. It's more of a taster, whereas OpenSeeds tends to be more in depth. So they're to suit different people's needs and skill sets and interests. And for the last 5 years, we have had quite a few people participating. The map is actually slightly out of date. I know we've had people from Madagascar and Lesotho, and I can see that neither of those are green, so that map needs to be updated as well. But probably, I would say comfortably, if we look at the whole community, that we have between 700 and 800 people who have participated as trainees, trainers, mentors, and so on. And if you know anyone in Antarctica who wants to come play, please let me know, because that is the continent we haven't hit yet, but it is also the one that has researchers in it. And so some of the things that we do when we are doing our trainings is we design different ways for people to learn collaboration. So for example, we try and model our behavior. And I also say that doesn't mean being inhumanly perfect role models, but being human role models. For example, I really should have put these slides on Zenodo so that you all could reuse these slides later, and I still will, but it was being so slow today. Oh my god, I do not know why it was not loading. So we're never perfect. So modeling the behaviors we want to see, but recognizing that no one's ever gonna like do every single thing perfectly. Trying to set expectations and the norms that we want to see when people interact, and as well as providing opportunities to actually try some of the new skills that you're learning. And I will dig into details of how that works here. So for example, during each training session that we run, we try to get people to work in collaborative notes. You can see on the bottom right, the area that's highlighted in pink. That's 5 or 6 different people are actually dropping their notes there in the document. We have a very carefully structured facilitation, which you can kind of see a little bit from the note document here again. We introduce a code of conduct that's setting those expectations and norms that we want to see. We say, you know, we have some basics. We want people to treat one another with respect. And we also ask for people to do breakout rooms, which does the chance for peer learning, whether that's one-to-one or whether it's small group discussions to actually think about and analyze the concepts that they've been learning. And we also look at ways for people to step up in the community if they wish to do so further, giving people a chance to get leadership roles and also cement the skills, because teaching something that you've just learned is one of the best ways for you to actually remember and retain that. So once someone's participated in training once, we ask them to come back later to facilitate the meetings, like the one we had a bit of a screenshot from in the previous slide. And we ask them to participate as mentors for the next round of training. And how do we know that this is actually working the way we might hope? So we commissioned one of my colleagues, Bernaldo. She was in OLS until middle or end of last year. And she did a qualitative research study on the impact of the OpenSeeds training. Now, I myself did a lot of qualitative research, but before I got there, I could not understand how that could be useful, like an interview study of 20 people. I know that can't be generalized. So I'm like, what's the point of this actually? And so I think it's important sometimes to state, especially if many of you come from quantitative backgrounds, I don't know if that's the case or not, that qualitative research with small samples explores nuance in a way that quantitative can't. And at this scale, it is designed to maybe refine research questions in ways that you couldn't, but not to be generalizable. So just because 20 people said this does not mean everyone else would. We haven't striven to get a good sample, but it has given us much better questions and much more detail on the questions than we would have had we not done this. So we had about 20 people between interviews and focus groups. And some of the impact that people shared, these are direct anonymous quotes that have been shared with permission. On the left, we're looking at someone saying, you know, actually the style that you've taught helps people to stay engaged, to respond, and it makes it easier for me to run my projects as a group project. On the right is a very typically academia comment that makes me so sad. They're like, hold on a second, why are people being nice to me? And I don't I don't like that. But I think it's real. I know a lot of people. In fact, I almost know no one who has graduated from a research degree without scars from that research degree. I would like to see things get better. Which brings me on to my next brief topic. So I wouldn't go so far as to assert that our 6 weeks or 16 weeks of training actually brings psychological safety, although we do know that at least it's welcoming. But I've certainly worked in places where people would say psychological safety while destroying any sense of safety that I might have had. So saying it isn't enough. It's all about actions. And psychological safety is a scientific term that is well evidenced. It was originally coined by someone called Amy Edmondson. She writes some awesome books, which I would wholeheartedly recommend everyone read. But she defines it effectively as creating environments that people feel they can speak honestly without having to fear the repercussion more than the repercussions of not speaking up. And to give concrete example that you could imagine, think about a stereotypically over superior surgeon, right? Apologies to anyone who is a perfectly nice surgeon, but imagine a surgeon who expects respect and who doesn't want to be interrupted, doubted, or spoken to. Imagine they're on the operating table and someone else who is helping with this kidney removal says, "Hold on a second, I really think we should check the paperwork again." And the surgeon snaps, "Don't interrupt me, we're in the middle of this. This is a very sensitive operation." And they swallow whatever they were going to say. And 3 weeks later, of course, there's a malpractice suit because the wrong kidney was removed. So that's a scenario where there is absolutely no psychological safety, where people fear the people in their team so much that even the side effects, like someone A, not being treated for what they needed to be treated, and B, a healthy organ removed, is a real and genuine possibility. And I've been reading a lot on psychological safety recently. This is not an uncommon thing. These kinds of things are very real scenarios that happen in hospitals, but any other team. If you have a team where people feel like they can speak up, then they'll say, "Hold on, let's check the documentation again." And then they take the right kidney out. It reduces the number of errors. And this very much is also relevant to science, because the fewer errors we have, the better science, the better research we have, the more pleasant the communities and the teams that we're working in. Because, yeah, collaboration, it ain't easy. So this is actually another quote from that study. Someone saying, it was nice to have the training, but at the end of the day, I still work in academia. And, still meant that it's very stressful because I didn't publish in the whatever impact factor has excited someone today. And so we also try to focus on the fact that, being an open science martyr isn't useful. If you're screaming open science as you get fired, didn't help anyone. So try and be realistic and try and be honest about your circumstances as well. Do what you can, when it's safe and sensible to do so. Moral of the story overall, interpersonal skills, they're not something fluffy. Building a community is not easy work, even though we use words like soft skills and like as though somehow it's squishy or it's not hard, it's not challenging. Interpersonal skills are actually what make teams pleasant to work in. They reduce team drama and they reduce errors, and they're something that we can systematically cultivate to make actually better. We also probably will have the next Nebula 6-week training cohort coming up, I hope, in early 2026. There's a little bit of Trump administration to figure out, but hopefully the money will eventually start flowing again. Wish us luck. And I'm going to ask you for a question, which is, do you have a tip, something in teamwork that you've done, or even with an individual, that just nudged something slightly closer to feeling safe or trusted or trustworthy in a team? And if you could share those in chat with one another, and maybe think if there's something that you could do today or this month for your team to just increase that and move the needle a little bit closer towards the safety side than towards the spooky surgeon taking out the wrong kidney side. I would love to see some of those. If you want more reading, I'll post a link because I couldn't even decide only one book. I'm like, all of these books are too good. If you really care about the ways that teams work together and leaders work and understanding different cultures and the way different cultures work together, all of these are good. If you're in Cambridge, I can probably loan you a copy. And I want to say thank you, first of all, to all of the amazing people. I think we're probably about 800 right now. And the people who give us the money that helps us do this without burning out, because we're actually paid to do the job. That is the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yo, for talking about psychological safety. It is definitely a topic that is not discussed enough in science in our communities. So with that, I'm just gonna open the floor for any questions anyone might have for Yo, or shout out for any tips that we can share and bring back to our communities. Eric, go ahead.
I was typing this in the chat, but I can say it. One of the as I said in the chat, I've been reading Amy Edmondson's work as well, and one of the things I set up last year at Agene is what I called, I'm in charge of operational excellence at Agene, and one of the things that I did is set up a sort of a speaker series where teams, or preferably cross-team groups that are working on joint projects together, can try to solve a problem, or have solved the problem that came. And one of the prerequisites for giving that is that they have to describe something that failed, basically, and talk about something that went wrong. Because I don't want to hear about all the things that went right. I want to hear about what went wrong and how they addressed it. Because I think, and the whole reasoning behind that to just try to make people feel comfortable saying like, hey, we messed up here. And just anecdotally, my wife works for Big Pharma, and she just had to work an 80-hour week because somebody broke a big piece of equipment and didn't tell anybody about it, and they were getting compromised data for a week and a half that they then had to figure out because they don't have that same so there's real repercussions of not feeling safe about saying that we broke something. So it's, trying to establish that at Agene and seeing what happens when you don't establish that in other places has been a really interesting thing to see over the last couple of years, for sure.
Definitely. Thank you, Eric. I mean, having the confidence to admit that that you've done something wrong or something has gone wrong is definitely something that is scary, but also very necessary to know that there are failures, and it's sometimes it's okay. You can learn from your mistakes. Everyone else can learn from that as well. A general thing that we try to do as well is just make sure that we leave time and space to talk to people and listen to people. So if they have any issues that, I mean, it does obviously need to have built a relationship to have people feel that they can trust you, but just making some spaces where people do feel comfortable to come talk and actually actively listening and not just nodding your head along is a very valuable skill, at least I find with our communities and our groups. Any more tips and tricks folks want to throw up?
Yeah, I think I have one. I think Eric's comment made me remember something. I worked in a place years ago, and when I was doing the induction, when they were doing the induction to me, the first thing that the person said is, this laboratory has a no blaming policy. And this was so important. Like, it was the very first message I got when I just arrived, and it made it completely different. So this kind of thing, like when equipment's broken and things like that, we didn't feel like, oh, I need to hide. We could do, because it was more important to work together towards, fixing it rather than blaming and disputing who did what. So I think this was very remarkable for me. And yeah, I think I would encourage everyone to say that the very first start, it makes a completely difference.
Definitely, that just sets the ground to say, look, everyone's all equal, and it's, it's okay. We won't blame you if a mistake happens, So thank you very much for sharing that, and hopefully we can all bring that to our own groups and communities. Any more? And as Yoa said, feel free to also post these in chat. Maybe we can gather a few of these and share it on the forum later on as well, so people can also learn from the stories that you share. Adrian, you had a question. Would you like me to read out, or would you like to voice? Okay, cool. So Adrian asks, is there any way to find out the contact info and area of people that went to your programs, so we can contact them to see if they're interested in potential collaborations. Always good to see this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is such a nice question. Thank you, Adrian. I'm finding you a link, but one of the fun things about an open science training cohort is that we list the participants of every cohort and usually a website or a GitHub, historically Twitter, which, yeah, the mileage hasn't been good on that. But I will post, and it also includes information about the individual's expertise and the projects that we're working on. I'll post that in the chat in a minute.
Perfect. Thank you. There's definitely a large network from OLS, so there'll be a lot to look through from there. Any further questions? If not, I'll pass on to Sibeli to introduce our second speaker for the day.
Awesome. Well, so now we move to our next speaker. Also from, as I mentioned before, an amazing organization that works with education and training around science, biotechnology, and especially genomics. So joining us now we have Bárbara, a fellow colleague from Brazil, and she has a bachelor's in biology and biotechnology from the Universidade do Vale do Itajaí, and both a master's and a PhD in tropical medicine from the University of São Paulo. She also has a postdoc from USP, and she was a research associate at University College London. She has a scientific background in global health with broad experience in capacity development in resource-limited settings in Latin America and Africa. Currently, she's an education developer at Wellcome Connecting Science, dedicated to developing courses to democratize genomics sequencing and analysis capacity worldwide. And today, she'll be talking about applying FAIR principles for sustainable genomic training. The room is all yours, Leah.
Let me have a deep breath. I always get a bit nervous. So technology and nervous. So let me share my screen. And thank you for the nice introduction, Sibeli. It's been really nice to be here and being able to listen to others and also to share a bit of what we do in Connecting Science. So yes, so without any further ado, I will start presenting. So we are Wellcome Connecting Science, the learning and training program within the Wellcome Connecting Science. It will come to you in a bit. So just to let you know that I'm here today as your speaker, but Isabella and Vaishnavi are my colleagues who are also joining, so they will be keen to answer questions as well if you have any. And we are here today to introduce you to what is Wellcome Connecting Science in what we do, our approaches to sustainable training, and our commitment to the FAIR principles. And as I was listening to you, I was just thinking, I think my presentation aligns very well, and it's a different view of what she just presented. So I think it was really, really good to be the two of us today. So Wellcome Connecting Science, how we are based here in the United Kingdom in a village called Hingston, which is very close to Cambridge, in this nice and green campus. We are the training program of the Wellcome Sanger Institute. And you see a lot of this welcome, welcome, welcome everywhere. So you are all welcome to join any of our programs. But the main reason why we use welcome all the time is because we are actually funded by the Wellcome Trust. People tend to confuse ourselves with the actual funding agency, but we are not funding anyone. We are funded by them, and then that's why we use the name. The goal of Connecting Science is to enable everyone to explore genomic science and impact on research in health and society. Our learning and training program has 26 staff members. We mostly work in events. And what we offer spans from discovery, research based on genomic technologies to the application of those technologies in medicine and public health. Okay, and our portfolio covers conferences, courses, and retreats. We host almost 50 events per year, and we can connect to more than 25,000 people each year. In our courses portfolio, which is what I'm going to talk more today about, we will have laboratory and bioinformatics courses, both in online in the format of massive open online courses, but we also offer courses in Kingston, and we also go to the regions of our target audiences to deliver courses as well within our global training program. We also have some basic training in bioinformatics in a format that we call blended geographic distributed classrooms, where is some sort of a hybrid because we put together the course materials, but in several places in the world, or usually we tend to use for regions, so the whole Africa or the whole Latin America or the whole Asia, they will have some hubs that they can coordinate and teach the students or reproduce the materials that we are doing. We also support training and curricular development, so we can consult anyone who would like to run their own training. And we also are implementing some sustainable communities of practice. And just to to close the majority of our program, we also have this podcast called Your Digital Mentor, that because we appreciate that many students, postdocs, and professionals don't have mentors. I think the previous talk we were just talking about that not everybody who has the expertise has necessarily the skills to be a mentor, to be a teacher, to be a trainer. So we have this podcast as a support. Right, but I came here today to talk to you about sustainable training, and just going back to to terminology, I retrieved from the Cambridge Dictionary the meaning of sustainable. And in the context that I'm going to use, it's pretty much this, the meaning of the word. It's able to continue for a period of time. So anything that you're creating or anything that you are doing, it has to continue for as long as possible. So that's pretty much what we aim when we are running our program. And just to illustrate it and to make it a bit more romantic, I put together the story of Rosalinda Franco. And then I think you understand better what we are doing for having sustainable training or to empower communities in the regional, the geographic regions that we work with. So Rosa is a dedicated young scientist. She's doing her PhD in a Brazilian university, this back then in 2019, before the chaotic pandemic. Genomics for her was crucial to her research project, but she had, as you know, limited funding and access to new technologies. But she's eager to learn more. And I think this kind of reflects the reality of many people, especially in those resource-limited settings. So she came across to a social media post. It happens that the social media post was in Portuguese. So she was not even looking for it, but it just came into her radar, and the post said, "Attention scientists in Latin America, there is a free genomic course being offered in Uruguay. However, the course is in English." And as many scientists who don't speak English as the first language, she started to think, "Oh, is my English good enough to apply for this course? Is my research good enough to apply for this course? how can I get funding to travel for this course? So this is something that many students on her level as a PhD or as an undergrad or master, even sometimes postdocs and early career researchers think about. Well, but am I good enough to apply for this prestigious course, international course? I needed to learn more, but am I good enough? But she's trying to cope with her imposter syndrome and applied for the course. And her application, she highlighted the relevance and the impact of this course for her career. And when we assessed her application, we checked, yes, she's working on the topic of what we are offering. The methods that she's going to learn or the methods that we are offering are relatable for her research. It will definitely improve her research. And she's a PhD student in an university in Brazil, so she might have the support to disseminate what she just learned. And then she got approved and got a full bursary, so she didn't need to be worried about traveling to Uruguay because she got everything covered. Right. And so she went to the training, but again, students, she was worried about this fancy global training. She was expecting that she would only learn expensive protocols and fancy equipment that, in fact, she would not be able to do much about that. But anyway, she got the place, but she was also concerned about her language barrier. How am I going to communicate with others? I don't know if I will be able to follow what the teachers are saying. I don't know. I don't know if I am good enough. So she even considered, oh, I don't think I'm going to make any friends because I cannot speak to anyone. I can only speak Portuguese and my English is broken. So she expected that the benefit of attending the training was very limited. But in reality, what happened was that the course was really good. She learned different protocols and how to adapt to her own context. It was not only a single technique to solve the same issue. The trainers provided 2 or 3 different protocols and alternatives, and the trainers were also multilingual and friendly, so they could even go into the details with the students in particular to try and solve their own issues in their own context. Oh, I don't have this machine, but I have that, so you can do this adaptation and then work this way. She, at the end of the course and during the course, had access to all the protocols and the slide presentations that were provided during the course. There was group work where they needed to come with a final result, analyzing some data, discussing with people from everywhere because it was an international course. So there were people from many different countries, and this promoted collaboration among them. And then on top of that, she even had professional and cultural exchange. She found friends, collaborators, and even mentors. So it was much better than she expected. When she went back home to her lab, she started to do her homework. She found more free online courses, hybrid conferences. This was 2020, still before we knew the pandemic, so around January, February. She was studying the details of the protocols she just learned in that course. She managed to reproduce the protocols, even with some small adaptations. She felt that she had the freedom to contact the training team and even her colleagues from the course so they could discuss troubleshooting. So she could always email them and saying, oh, I'm having this issue, my result is coming this way, what could I do? And she would always receive support. And then she came with the conclusion, well, I need to disseminate this. I need to let my colleagues knew what I've just learned, but they don't speak English. They still cannot read English. Everything I have here is in English. So she managed to translate the protocols because they were in a format that was user-friendly and then easy to translate using, simple, accessible and available tools that are all over the internet. So she managed to disseminate those protocols and teach others. And she also found other training opportunities. She kept upskilling herself. And eventually she became the reference of the expertise of this particular protocol, this particular method in her lab. So Rosa was already, during the pandemic, she already dominated the genomic methods. She knew where to find new information. She knew how to upskill herself, was bombarding, as we all remember during the pandemic, there were plenty of online resources, virtual resources. Everybody was changing and moving from in-person to virtual, so we could still cope with training and education programs. And she felt really confident because she had a community of researchers that she could rely on. So they would exchange more training, they would exchange more information. She also gathered support from the neighboring labs to train more students, to train more staff, so they get better equipped to respond promptly to the pandemic, either doing COVID research, but also other types of research, because although there was a shortage of everything, they were now better connected because they all knew each other and they decided to collaborate and exchange gloves, reagents, everything that they could, working as a big team. Eventually, she identified partners and put together an international research proposal so they could keep exchanging expertise and resources. All of this based on the community that she got back there in the course that she attended in 2019. Right, so here we are in 2025. Rosa is now a postdoc. Yes, she managed to get her PhD, and now she keeps encouraging her students and colleagues to seek for new materials, new opportunities, even when there is no funding, even when it's not in the language that they speak. She knows the ways, and she knows there are always opportunities where they can apply for bursaries, they can attend hybrid free events. So there are always opportunities, and she disseminated this among her colleagues. Her network expanded from local to international labs, and they now exchange reagents, they share equipment, they discuss troubleshooting and results, they collaborate. Recently, Rosa even delivered her first international course because she was feeling so confident and so competent in her field that she was invited to be a trainer. And with this, a new cycle begins because then she can inspire other students and so on. So yeah, that's the story of Rosa. And so why I told you all of this? Because I could have presented in so many ways. But in this whole story of Rosa, I want you to think about what Wellcome Connecting Science did to help Rosa to be able to continue for a period of time, to be able to continue research, able to continue to be impactful for a period of the time. And because our debate with technology, I will just post here some of the answers that can have, but there are many, many multiple answers. And also, this is not like an example of this is what needs to be done, this is what I believe is the best way. This is pretty much an example of what we've been doing rather than, now from on onwards, that's the solution. But I think Connecting Science is very proud of having an equitable selection process. So when we are selecting the candidates, we are not looking on how many publications they have, because the number of publications depending so many other things. So what we really want to see is that if they are really working on that field, if that course is really relevant for them, that course will really improve their research. So this is what is important to us in the applications. If they are showing to us that the importance of attending the training, they have more chances to get in. And then we think that this is a more equitable process. Other things that we consider is geographical diversity. So although sometimes we have like many students from Brazil that are highly qualified, because indeed in Latin America, the best universities are still in Brazil, or at least the ones that have more publications. So we tend to distribute, although they are scoring well, they are having more opportunities. So we try to bring people who have less opportunities to attend to this course, and then we subsidize them with full bursaries, for instance. We reduce language barriers. We try to make them comfortable to speak their own languages. So that's why one of the reasons we get local trainers, so they can help and facilitate with the language. Yes, our courses are still delivered in English, but when we go to the regionals, we always have local trainers, and then they can speak the language that the participants of training are speaking as well. And this has an enormous impact for students because they feel confident on asking questions. We also guarantee access to tools and expertise. So we choose our trainees very well, so they can be friendable, they can be friendly, they can be approachable, and encourage the attendees to engage with them as well. We use active learning methodologies that are centered in the learner. So our objective is that we promote more rosas. We want to have more rosas. We want to have people with more energy, with more empowerment, with more expertise in a regional level, rather than just showing, oh, in the UK we do this, and that. No, we want to show them that they also have the expertise, and they just need a little push. And we also promote communities and collaboration, because then we have this, our active learning methodologies are based in a lot of group work, and we have the leadership representation because we bring local trainers to train, so they can be inspired and see, oh, this person from, I don't know, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, I don't know where they are from, but if they can be here training others, maybe I can do the same one day. So we believe that with this and more, that I cannot cover everything. I will always forget something. But we think that we are bringing empowerment for those students, so they feel more confident that they can also be experts in their field. So yes, so this is what I had to say about sustainability. And what about FAIR principles? Why I put FAIR principles in the middle of this? How am I going to connect? So FAIR principles, for those who are not very familiar with what they are based in this publication here, from 2016, and it says that digital assets should be findable, accessible, always get wrong this word, interoperable, and reusable, to be sustainable. So remember when I said that Rosa had access to all the content, all the materials that she could possibly imagine for that course. So this is one example that we use to host those materials. We put everything we have in GitHub, and then it's permanent, and it's going to be accessible while Connecting Science and GitHub exist. So they can always access that. And the other thing that is quite beauty about this GitHub is because it's not only for that particular course. all the updates, all the new courses, sometimes we run the same course multiple times. We host it all together year by year, so the students can go back there and see the most updated version of the materials. And it is there for everybody. It's also a version control platform that hosts, shares, and tracks every change, so we can also do lots of statistics and understand how those materials are used. Our central hub it's a central hub for all courses materials, as I mentioned. So it's all hosted in a single space, very well organized and cataloged. Thank you, Vaishnavi, for that. And then during the course, the learners get real-time access to this content. And after the course, we create archived releases linked to a DOI for long-term use. So they become static, but not only static, they have a DOI that can be used as a reference. So how GitHub powers our courses? Our team and the course team, together with the education developer, and in this case, bioinformatics teams, but also when we have wet lab, material go there as well. We together create a public GitHub repository for the course. And then before the course starts, we add all the course's presentations. It's everything in Markdown. For those who are not familiar, Markdown is a very friendly language, and it's text-based, so it's really used to read in other media that it's not only GitHub. And then we also put the data, so they can download the data and then rerun the analysis. That's the practice analysis. They can rerun and even use those data to train others. It's all there. During the course, the GitHub will serve as a single hub for all the course materials, provides a clear guidance, and is easy to be updated if there are any changes during the course. And after the course, as I mentioned, the course material is copyrighted, be published on Zenodo to get a DOI. And then this DOI facilitates the sharing of the material and also the citation. All our materials are shared under attribution, that they are completely reusable, they can be adaptable, but they should be used for non-commercial purposes and should be shared in the same attribution. That means that all the material that is recreated or readapted from our material has to be shared in the same way for non-commercial purposes, and with the attribution to share again and be reusable and etc. And so how is this strategy fair anyway? So just going back to what the FAIR principle says, it's findable because it's web-based. All materials are cataloged in a single location, can be found using search engines. If you go to search engines and type Wellcome Connecting Science GitHub, is going to be the first entry. It is accessible because it's free to use, no login required to download or to access the materials. It's in user-friendly formats, so most of the materials are in PDF or Markdown that can be read in different programs. And it's completely reusable. As I said, our attribution encourages that all the material is reused, and we generate and we provide this DOI to make the citation of whoever is creating the material to be cited and to be acknowledged for the material they created. And this is pretty much what I had to say to you today. I know I've been skipping some QR codes, but I can also put the link on the chat now that I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So thank you.
Amazing. Yes, we have a lot of closes. I wanted to echo Yo's comment. Amazing storytelling. Really, really. Oh, I love following the journey from the start. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, congratulations on the work you've all been doing. We welcome Connecting Science, you, Isabella, Vaishnavi. Thank you so much, really, for sharing. And now we can open for questions from the audience. Please feel free to send them on the chat or open your microphone.
Whilst everyone is thinking of various things, I was just really pleased to see how much overlap there was between the stuff that I'd learned from the OpenSeeds course with what you, Leanne, was saying about what you guys do at the Wellcome Connecting Science training. Just, having everything clearly documented, sharing it, all with Creative Commons licenses and all that is just makes it so much more accessible and shareable to everyone. So yeah, I was happy to see that this kind of overlap, really. And I can see Yo wants to already connect with you after this, so glad that we can make these inter-community connections as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much. As I said, I was really glad listening to you because I could see, it's so well connected. It's so related.
I'm not too
like
far
it's
from
about-
Cambridge, so coffee
Yeah,
sometime, I'm thinking.
of course.
Also, thank you for sharing the upcoming courses, all free of charge. So we'll be sure to share that on the Reclaim forum as well. And I know language is always an issue that we've been thinking about as well. And I'm so glad to have Sibeli on the team because when we got the Trans-Zuckerberg Initiative funding last year, Sibeli kindly made posts about the where that funding will go to awards, both in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, which it's amazing to see that being represented. And I know that at OLS you guys tend to do both English and Spanish where you can. Makes you think you need to learn a few more languages.
Yeah. So it's a funny story. Maybe Isabella wants to chip in. We run one course in Africa, and there are a lot of French speaker countries there. So we translated the advert to French, and I think we had only a few places. I think maybe 20, and then we got 800 applications, which was like quite different from when we advertise in English. So you need to manage that as well, because it was great because we could reach out to more people, but also like it's a bit sad because we could not have all of them in our course. But it's been very impactful, and then we have stories, and we've been piloting specific training again because we cannot have for all, but we've been piloting some translating initiatives to reach out to more communities because we understand there is only so many people who can read English, and also back then we had when the social media posts, they are quite, it still is, but the algorithms will always feed up on the same keywords that you are using. Now they are translating. I noticed that YouTube and all the social media, they kind of understand the word in all different languages, but so we've been thinking about how to facilitate better for language barrier. Eric has a question.
Yeah, so just to kind of stay on that topic of languages, we Agene has a number of ebooks that we provide for free about CRISPR, fluorescent proteins, viral vectors, that types of thing, and we've managed to get a few of them translated into Spanish. I don't believe we have any in Portuguese yet, but I'm wondering because it's expensive to hire people to do these translations. So I'm wondering what your feelings are about, using something like AI to translate these types of things. I would still want a human being to take a look at whatever that translation is and give us some edits and that kind of thing. We do have some Brazilian employees here at Agene that, you know, Portuguese is their first language. But I'm just wondering if you've had any experience with that and using those sorts of translation programs, particularly for science-oriented types of things.
Yes, I actually run a workshop for scientists to translate course materials. So I think the first question you need to ask to yourself is, what is the purpose of this translated material? What you are going to do with this translated material? Because it's completely different. You're translating a course book or, you know, something that goes to a library rather than a protocol, something that you just want some guidance to follow. So that's completely different approach. The approach that we are using to translate stuff is like an advertise in a social media. So you don't need to be a huge expert to, and it doesn't have to be a professional to do that because the purpose is different. When you are translating course materials in the way of a protocol or something that you just want to disseminate more easily, Leah, my expertise, I will not even say that it aligns with Wellcome Connecting Science. I'm not saying that is not, I'm just putting my experience, my personal experiences. It is worth it. It is worth it to use ChatGPT. It is worth to use AI. I've done it more than once and more than one pilot that we run, and it is worth it. But yes, you are completely right. It needs a human to review it. So there is some good practice that you still need to follow. So you can translate with with any tool. It can be Google Translate, it can be DeepL, it can be anything. But it needs to be reviewed by a human. And this human ideally should be expert in that field. So they can do the translation more appropriately. But yes, I think depending on the purpose, yes, go for it. And also I noticed that YouTube, for instance, they have dubbed version that is also AI generated. So the technology is there. I think we need to embrace it.
Yeah,
It will happen. You want it or not, it will happen.
Yeah, we do. That's one of the ones that we already use AI for, is for the subtitles for our instructional videos on YouTube. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Might I come in with some comments on the AI and the languages? So I was, first of all, actually just quickly, Eric, on your comment, the Galaxy project, they and their training, they had quite good mileage with simplifying their English to make sure that the translations from Google Translate worked well, which I always thought was an interesting paradigm. So yes, it's automated, but being careful to make sure that the automations work well is really nice. But just also thinking about languages in general, I'm curious, like, how many people on the call is their first language English? Some, a few. I challenge you to try and speak to your colleagues in a language not of your birth. Right, like we just talked about translation from English to other languages, but who says English has to come first? And that's part of the reason I've been learning Spanish, right? I speak Hebrew. It's not a useful language. There's only one country that speaks Hebrew. And so I'm like, okay, international collaborations, like Arabic, Chinese, Spanish, maybe something like that, so that you know the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to say a really well composed sentence, and then they're going to answer me so fast I will have no idea what just happened. You know, they're going to think I'm an idiot. I'm going to make so many mistakes. Embrace that fear and realize that everyone you work with has felt that way more than you.
Yeah, I echo that.
definitely echo that as well. Yeah, because when you showed on Rosa's kind of speech bubble, I don't think my English is good enough. I've had similar things where we had collaborators come over here, they're French speaking. I'd learned a little bit of French in my past, but I just did not feel comfortable talking to them in French, and they were just so encouraging. So it's just nice to see that you know, maybe English shouldn't be the primary language, depending on who you talk to.
Yes, for our latest Recon workshops in Argentina, we hosted them fully in Spanish. I mean, we had two Brazilians in the audience, including myself, so it was a bit of a portunhol with English sometimes when you kind of get lost in the middle. But a work I've been following a bit, and I've been meaning to talk more with them, is from Pre-Review. They're a preprint platform. Yes, I thought you would know about them. And it's very nice. So they started basically exactly mapping what was the real needs from their community. So like one of their largest audience after English speaking countries was exactly Latin America. So they started this work with translations both to Latin American Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese, because there's also that nuance, right? You can go with just, there isn't just one Spanish, there isn't just one Portuguese. And it was very nice. I actually joined one of their early calls on that. So it was very community-based work. So really talking with users and like what resources everyone thought made sense. And now in July, they launched some of their demo versions of these translations, also welcoming input from the community. Exactly, if you see something that is wrong on this translation or it doesn't make sense. So yes, I've been meaning to talk with them because it sounds like very, very exciting work and exactly on publications, right? So yeah, I just sent the link from their news. Oh, nice. And they're part of the Nebula program. Amazing.
It's a small and very overlapping world, the open science, I think.
And also shows how welcoming this little world is, really. Are there any more questions, comments for you and Leanne now then from the audience? I know there was one left in chat from Natalia that I think she was asking to Leanne, are there any specific calls to submit proposals for the courses you have, or are they always open?
Yes, so I think Isabella shared, and also I shared our website. Yeah, even us, we don't track the courses. They are always live. So what you can do is sign up to our newsletter to receive all the upcoming events. But the best way is to check the website. We have conferences, we have global courses, we have courses in Kingston. All of them have bursaries, so you can apply for the bursaries as well. So
I think
yeah.
she meant whether to submit a proposal for a course, maybe? No, not. Yeah,
Oh.
so yeah, just to answer that, we don't have anything official. Sometimes we start informal by someone send an email to us, and it's been occasions that we like the idea, we did some scoping, some needs assessment, and the idea could go ahead, but you're a very small team, and we can only run about up to 12 courses a year in the global train, so in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So it can happen, but it might be a slow process and depends. I think it helps a lot if you have another source for funding. We've run courses in the past, organoid course in Uruguay, for instance, that someone got a grant first from UNO, the University of the United Nations. And then they got in touch with us after they already had some grant and the dates, and then we could put half the amount, we could sort of match the cost and help them organize, since they didn't have this experience.
Thank you, Isabella, for that further comments on that. I think we are coming towards the end of the session now then today, but any last lingering comments for Yo and Leanne? If not, we'll also post their slides and everything on the forum, so you can access everything there again, and we will get around to processing these videos so you guys can watch them again in future as well. So if not, I want to have you extend welcome. Oh, thank you again to both Yo and Leanne, and hope to see you guys again next month. Have a lovely rest of the day, wherever you are. Thank you,
Beautiful
Marcos.
day, y'all.
Muito
Thanks.
obrigada, muchas gracias.
Merci beaucoup.